We are back with another ultimate Easter egg guide. I'm so excited to be doing this. So I spent some time putting my own theories together and also looking at theories that people have been talking around on the internet to make this one big list of everything that I was able to find. Granted, I might have missed some stuff, so if I did, please comment it below. And without any further ado, let's just get right into it. Starting off strong, looking at the runtime of the video, it's 4 minutes and 9 seconds, which adds up obviously to number 13. Then if we look at the opening screen, it looks really similar to what they used to use in silent films. You'll notice there are cats on each border, and we also have in the middle at the bottom a little yarn ball, obviously in reference to Taylor's cats or her love for cats. Now let's go to the opening shot. The first thing you may notice is that Taylor's makeup looks a bit different, and that is because she's resembling Clara Bow, who is in fact a star from the silent film era. So following on that theme, you will notice that everything is black and white. And by now you probably also already know that in this album we have a song called Clara Bow. So obviously she's making a reference to that. Her dress is very similar to what she wore at the Grammys this year, including the watch choker necklace that she's wearing. The main differences are, of course, the gloves instead of black are white and kind of transparent. There is a Western wedding tradition for a bride to wear one and then have the groom later remove it from her. The entire Tortured Poets Department album has these themes of like weddings and marriage, so this is just playing on that. I've also seen people making a reference to how during the Eras tour on the Midnight set she's wearing a blue one. The lyrics during the scene are, "I was supposed to be sent away, but they forgot to come and get me." To me, this feels almost like a follow-up to It Hits Different, where she sings, "Is it you or have they come to take me away?" She's pleading insanity due to the difficulties that came with her breakup. In the scene, she's clearly in some kind of asylum and simply has lost her mind. In this particular shot, I count 11 bobby pins on her head, which is a reference to her 11th studio album, of course. Then a nurse or something of the sort walks in, all dressed in white, bringing her forget him pills. This is making a reference to the lyrics within the song where she says, "I took the miracle move on drug." You will also notice some numbers on the pill box, starting off with her birthday 12/13/89 and finishing on the release date of the music video itself, so today. She then walks over to the mirror and kind of starts wiping off her face to start unveiling all these tattoos, which are clearly the same as Post Malone's tattoos. So from what I understand here, this is kind of a metaphor. She's struggling to move on from her past relationship with Joe, and the miracle move on drug was basically something that would make her maybe act different than she usually was or go to someone different than the person she would usually go to. Dare I say, Maddie Healy? As soon as she steps away from the mirror, the tattoos are gone, showing either the really temporary effect of it or just showing that it's really what's beneath her. It's not visible to others, but inside she feels like she doesn't see herself or she's changed certain things about her. We then get this scene where she crosses over and arrives at her workplace, which could be a reference to her song I Can Do It With a Broken Heart, where she talks about performing during the Eras tour even though she is miserable. You will notice that she's wearing a Victorian dress, very similar to what we see used during the Eras tour while she performs My Tears Ricochet. And we get the typewriter scene, which is of course a reference to the lyrics from the Tortured Poets Department, where she sings, "You left your typewriter at my apartment," straight from the Tortured Poets Department. Then we see what she's typing, and to me this is a clear reference to The Shining, where we see Jack is just typed like a million times, "Oh, work no play makes Jack a dull boy." So here she is typing, "I love you, it's ruining my life," repeatedly. This again is reiterating how she's at work, but she's suffering. So even though she cleaned herself up and got to work, she is a mess nonetheless. You will also notice an extra space here, cutting off the word ruining, perhaps a reference to Blank Space from 1989. When the typewriter is shown, you will also notice that number 1 is not there, which could also be a reference to her song The One. As Post and Taylor continue to type, we see these colors start to emerge from the typewriters, which could very well be a reference to her song Illicit Affairs, where she sings, "You showed me colors you know I can't see with anyone else." So in a world where everything is black and white, their words to each other or their feelings are bringing out these colors. From Post Malone sites, we get the color blue, which is typically by Swifties associated to Joe Alwyn, who has claimed that his favorite color is blue, and we've noticed that Taylor has taken that and romanticized that color in a lot of her music. In the next scene, we see Taylor and Post laying down looking at each other, which could be a reference to a rom-com love movie. She's reading a book that says Us, which of course is a reference to the story of Us from Speak Now. You will also notice that they're both wearing the exact exact same thing down to the shoes, which I think is a reference to Down Bad where she sings I Lost My Twin. As the shot pans out, you will see that they are lying on this like silhouette that is obviously Taylor's face, which is perhaps symbolizing that this is actually happening in her mind. The silhouette also really looks similar to what she used in her music video for Style, like the hairstyle is the same. Then we get this shot of Taylor like running into Post Malone and they hug, and I think this is also a reference to what happened in 2019 at the Grammys. But it also made me think of that one clip where Taylor runs to Joe's arms, because that was one of the only clips that we ever got like publicly of them interacting with each other. So because there are so few, I think that's why it made me think of that. Now this is not an Easter egg, but just this sequence I found very powerful, where they're looking at each other and they're looking in love, and then suddenly things change and they're looking maybe confused, and then in the next scene they're already looking kind of disappointed or sad. Also notice that Post Malone's tattoos are gone. So if the tattoos earlier were representing the move on pill, maybe the lack of having those tattoos is symbolizing purity or cleanness. Then the tornado starts to form around them as clearly the relationship starts to deteriorate. She reaches out to him and he almost hesitates to reach back. Like, there's a time gap before he even begins to reach for her, and the scene cuts before we can even see if he actually grabs her hand. In the next scene, we arrive at this shock therapy facility. Going back to Clara Bow, in 1949, she was actually checked into an institution where she received shock therapy. Though here visually, I think Taylor is more making a reference to Stevie Nicks than Clara Bow, because in the first scene you'll see that for Clara Bow she had the very, very thin eyebrows, and of course in that song Clara Bow she also talks about Stevie Nicks. We see Post working here. It also makes me wonder if she was just imagining the previous love. It was just something happening in her head that wasn't actually happening. Then we have Ethan Hawke and Josh Charles making a cameo, and they are both from the Dead Poets Society, which one is a movie that a lot of people had been confusing the album title with, so I don't know if she just wanted to play on that, or maybe she herself got some inspiration from that movie for this album. Josh Charles is playing Dr. Overstreet, which I googled and is actually a street in London. Then over here we see again a repetition of those lyrics, I love you, it's ruining my life. And also I was trying to look closely at it. Do some of these look like they say lover to you? Now the lights in the back, let me tell you, there might be something there, but I looked, I couldn't think of anything. And there are so many music videos where we're just like looking in the back and coming up with stuff. I don't know if anybody will come up with something, but I think it's just decorative. Then we get the scene where we see a black dog walk by. He's free even though he also has a leash on, so I don't know if that means anything, but it is of course a reference to the song and variant of the album Black Dog. Then Ethan and Josh pull the lever. Giving Taylor an electric shock, but Post Malone cannot stand to see her in pain, so he unplugs it. Which to me again kind of feels like a metaphor for her moving on to someone else because she wants to escape the pain from the past relationship. And now we get to what is basically the final scene. Post Malone is seen inside this telephone booth and Taylor Swift is sat on top. Now when I first saw this, of course, I thought of like the British telephone booths, but when you look at this properly, obviously it's not one of those. So I investigated, and this is a telephone booth from the mid-20th century US. I also found out that they're still functioning in Minnesota. Now I read that Taylor and Matthew Healy broke up around June, and the days that she was traveling with the Eras Tour, she was in Minnesota in June. So I don't know if I'm taking this a little bit far. They also supposedly started dating around April, and the famous Pour Down show of the Eras Tour took place in May. So I do wonder if the pouring rain in this scene and her being all dressed up is representative of maybe some struggles that they faced mid through the relationship. He's desperately calling her, trying to reach her. She doesn't want someone to call, she wants someone to be there to touch her. So he exits the booth and reaches up to her, matching the closing lyrics, but it won't start up until I touch you. We see Taylor is wearing the Tortured Poets Department bracelet. Post Malone also has a ring on, but I couldn't for the life of me figure out what it is. For me, it has to mean something, it's not random. I thought maybe it was a building. My boyfriend suggested it could be like the Super Bowl ring, but I think it doesn't look anything like that. I tried to zoom in a lot and I thought maybe it looked a bit like a skeleton, but I truly have no idea. Through this scene, we also have some cutscenes to Taylor burning down all the files, which is clearly a reference to her song Dear Reader, where she says, Dear Reader, burn all the files. Well, that was everything I was able to dig up for, so I don't feel like we got a lot of hints to anything that's coming up soon, but mainly Easter eggs related to the album itself and maybe some of her previous songs. I tried to look deeper. There were some numbers on the wall at the back of the electroshock therapy scene, But unfortunately, I couldn't get it into high enough quality. Maybe people with YouTube Premium, I saw there's like one higher quality level that I couldn't access. Maybe they can go and look. Maybe you find something. Also, when Taylor and Post are working on the sides of the table, they both have like the same folder with like a logo, which now that I think about it, could be the same thing that was on Post Malone's ring. I'm not sure. But again, I couldn't get the quality high enough to try to read the text on the table or to see what was happening with that logo. But anyway, that was everything that I was able to find. If you found anything that I missed out, please let us know below. And make sure to subscribe if you want to see more videos talking about the Tortured Poets department. We're going to be doing some lyric deep dives, definitely more Easter egg hunts. But as always, thank you so much for hanging out with me. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye!